Hello.
Aloha, Jeff. Dave Lawrence, Hawaii Public Radio.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. Catching you at the right time, or
You are. I was just actually hanging up from a previous interview.
you are an animal? Well, great to have you back on the show. It's Hawaii Public Radio, all things considered. I'm Dave Lawrence. Today we're welcoming back a gifted singer-songwriter. Joined us for each of the last couple of years discussing part 1 and 2 of his 3-album trilogy. It's Geoff Tate, former vocalist of Queensryche, has concluded his Operation Mindcrime trilogy, began in 2015 with The Key, continued in 2016 with Resurrection, wrapping up now in 2017 with The New Reality. I can't think of a lot of cats who have done such an adventure musically. A prog rock story narrated by our very special guest, one of hard rock's most distinctive voices, and great to be welcoming back singer, songwriter, sometimes sax player too, Geoff Tate. Aloha, mahalo, my brother.
Hi, Dave. Good talking with you again.
Good having you back. And first and foremost, bring us up to date on this. What an impressive thing, Jeff, for anyone who loves progressive rock and especially the lineage of it, to think about embarking on something like this. I still remember talking to you about it the first time, thinking, that's crazy, 3 records. So the storyline has evolved. It's a global theme, darkness, deception. Explain as best as you can to the curious folks listening how the journey of H has progressed.
Oh, yes. Well, it is a very abstract story. And, what I really tried to do, Dave, is kind of form and create these sort of, I'm going to call them audio breadcrumbs, that the listener can sort of pick up here and there throughout the 3 albums. And once they collect enough of them, and they will be led to sort of a destination that will be kind of a surprise, I think. And the 3rd album, The New Reality, is sort of the frosting on the cake, if you will, that kind of describes kind of where we're at in our own world these days, living in the 21st century with our global explosion of communication that we're all experiencing now. And to me, it seems like just a fascinating time to be alive. So many interesting things happening, and especially for a writer, you can get lost in all the innovations that are happening in the way, societies are moving and changing. I'm just really, I wake up every day, in shock and in awe of what's happening.
It's a crazy time, and you point out something really interesting. A couple of things, actually. One is a lot of the content of these 3 records does sort of mirror what's going on in an increasingly chaotic world, and it seems like between 2015 and 2017, that chaoticness has ramped up considerably. So I guess I would ask, did you, because I remember before talking, you had a lot of this figured out. You did the hike across Spain, and that's where you sort of came up with the genesis for the concept. Did you have did you have where we are today on this record in your mind then, meaning it's almost like you're forecasting some of the chaos of our contemporary world?
Well, I kind of put my crystal ball
into play.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating time to be alive right now because we are all communicating. We're all sharing our communication with each other, and we're witness to these fantastical events that are happening on a daily basis all around the world. And so, because we're so locked in with each other now, we are commenting on social issues that used to take years to figure out or years to come to the surface, and now it's all happening within a week. For instance, the sexual harassment issues that are going on in the United States right now. This is an explosive subject that's just
like a wildfire
sprung upon us. Yeah, it's like a wildfire, and that's going to be the norm, I think, with everything in the 21st century now, because we're all so tied together now. We're comparing notes, and we're wondering in the United States, for example, why is the richest country on earth have the worst health care in the world? Why is that? Why is our infrastructure in such shambles? Why are things falling apart? We're supposed to be the best country in the world, the richest country in the world. Why is that happening? We're looking at other countries with, a fraction of the, gross domestic product and the wealth, and they're miles ahead of where we are. How can that be? Where before we didn't know about that, but now it's in our face every day, and we're seeing that, and everybody's asking questions. Why is this going on? You know, so it's a great time to be alive, and it's a great time to be educated in what's happening.
Well, one of the themes that you're talking about that's also throughout these records is the communication and the ability to have this technology is changing culture and our interactions. The way you talked about, for example, the sexual harassment thing at work, and it goes from one person to another, and then it's a movement where all kinds of people are bringing their stories up. Similarly, I would look at the way that people have really changed in terms of, look at the way social media is going to keep people connected who, when they were children, usually folks would go off to college, they'd almost develop a new life when they had that opportunity to get to the next portion of their education. But when you look at the way you were just talking about, we're all so wired together, it's almost like people who may have had whatever experiences you had growing up through K through 12, in a lot of ways you're going to be dragging with you forever because of that connectedness. Suddenly when you go to college, it's not like you make a whole bunch of new friends. It's kind of like you're just taking everything with you. I fear for development because of this interconnectedness.
With development of the individual,
something like that. It just feels strange. Like you go off to college, and I guess I didn't appreciate it until when we talk about this interconnectedness, which is really a theme of these projects of yours. You see that sort of like, wow, I'm glad that I was able to develop new people, meet new people, explore things. It's kind of like you need that space and the interconnectedness. While it's a lot of helpful stuff. I just worry about some of that lack of development as a person that might occur because everything is so connected. It's like the same cats you went to school with in kindergarten. In the future, you'll be wired with forever, it seems.
Can't get away from them.
Right. I mean, it's just like, so when you're talking about the changes in the technology that is something you have explored, and also like the currencies and the cryptocurrency thing. I mean, you have all these different issues that you've tied together in these three. Again, it seems like it's a futuristic sci-fi thing, but at the same time, it also seems like a very big reflection of ourselves and the way we are changing dramatically because of the technology.
Yeah, well, the technology is definitely helping that. But, I guess my point really is that we're like in this mirror. We're looking in the mirror, and we're asking questions about what we see. And why does it have to be this way? Like, for instance, it wasn't too long ago that women didn't have the ability to vote. They couldn't work outside the home. They were considered ill-equipped to handle political issues. Well, nowadays we look at that with our 21st century eyes and we think, well, that's ridiculous.
Right.
How could people even have thought that? It wasn't too long ago that it was okay, acceptable to own somebody. It was okay to have a slave. Well, now we look at that with 21st century eyes and we say, how ridiculous. How could people even think that? Go back a little further. The kings and queens of Europe, convinced millions of people that a god had come down from the sky and gave them the power to rule over them.
Exactly.
And millions of people accepted that and went, yes, we believe, God save the queen or God save the king. And now we look at that and we think, how could people believe that? And we're at that point now in the 21st century where we're looking at these concepts that were thought up in, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And we're asking ourselves, well, does this really apply anymore?
It's so true.
Real? And
yet we have that rise of this right-wing nationalist thing that you just see all over the planet. So it's
well, that's frustration right there. That's people saying, "Oh, I'm too afraid of what's coming. I want what I'm used to, and I want to keep my head buried in the sand."
It's a frightening thing.
Also, like for America, we're analyzing who we are. We're trying to come up with a national identity. Who are we as Americans? Are we really just the place where people went to worship the God of their choice and make a lot of money? Is that what it means to be American? Is it really capitalism over everything else, win, 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 no matter what the choice, the cost. Is that really what we believe? There's a large segment of the country that wants us to continue thinking that way. Screw everybody is their motto, And so we're looking at that now, and we're trying to decide, well, who are we?
And you come from such a progressive place, too, when you think about how you juxtapose all these issues. And this is you're a cat who's written songs so it's like places of desperation, but then trying to find hope in them have been themes of yours, at least since going back to when I was in high school, when I look at like Operation Mindcrime, for example, and then compare that lyrically to the saga you've been on with these 3 records. I look at some of the things you're doing these days and what you just mentioned. Like, so you've just put yourself out there with Mercy Watch as an example. We're in Honolulu. I don't know if you know this. Hawaii has the most severe homeless crisis per capita. But right now, as you know, the entire West Coast also in crisis, getting much worse. And on that note, you did the fundraiser, Everett, Washington. You're in your home state, Immaculate Conception Catholic Church, benefiting Mercy Watch, trying to be helpful. I wonder, as you talk about, I'm thinking like there's a development in you that's happened recently too. Perhaps you're more touched by these things and realizing during this lifetime you want to give back and have made a stand on the issues.
Well, it's the homelessness issue is a gigantic issue, and one that is very complex, and it requires a lot of thinking, to come up with some kind of solution. I think that there's lots of stopgaps and there's lots of Band-Aids you can put on the situation, and those work for a point, to a certain point. But to really get to the real reason why this is happening at such an epidemic level, we don't have that answer yet, as far as what I can see. But I am interested in at least being part of the group that puts the Band-Aid on the situation till we, stop the bleeding, till we can figure out what's making the whole thing bleed, is my philosophy. And so that's why I'm part of Mercy Watch and doing what I can there. But, I always said to myself, if I was going to be homeless, boy, I'd go to Honolulu.
Oh, and it's happening every block, brother. It's
go someplace warm,
and they're here. It's and that makes sense. I'd think the same thing too. But when I
see these poor guys sitting on the sidewalks in Chicago in the winter, and I'm thinking, man, what are you doing?
In New York, 100,000 people, and even in where you are. So what touched you? What made you say, I'm going to do? Were you walking somewhere? Were you thinking? What was it in your own personal evolution? Because not only did you do the gig that you just did to support Mercy Watch, but you have a song too. So before we hear about the song, when did you say to yourself, "This is too much. I don't like what I'm seeing"? Were you with your kids? When was that catalytic moment?
Well, it started actually back in 1989, 90, and there was a homeless woman that lived in the doorway of a building that was next to where I was living, and I got to know her. And she was kind of like a regular in the neighborhood, and then one day she was gone, and I wrote a song about her at that time that ended up on the Empire album called Della Brown, and my mom was in mental health care when I was growing up. I had some experiences going to work with her at the Western State Hospital and seeing and interacting with patients there who were suffering from mental illness and homelessness too at that point. But it's been a kind of a long road. And then having kids and having to explain to them why these people are having this issue, or why they're there on that corner, or why they're panhandling, it becomes difficult to explain, to kids. And so my interest has always been there, and I've always tried to, do what I can to help. But Mercy Watch is like one of the things that really got me was their commitment to it. It's almost like a SWAT team that goes out to round up these people and see if they can help, and they're all professional, doctors and social workers and mental health professionals, and they really operate on a shoestring budget, and they really need the donations and to make it work. And I've seen a lot of success stories with this, with people actually being placed in some care and getting their life kind of back on track. And so much of it, is people's dependence on medications. They lose the ability to have the medication for whatever reason, and they get lost,
That's such a huge part of the whole issue is the mental health. I mean, because I walk back and forth to work, so I'm like, I think people who live here who are in cars might not feel it the same way because I'm there, I'm on the street, I'm inches from somebody living in a little encampment they've made. Then the next block they're in a bush. The next block they're yelling at nobody in particular. And I think that the mental, it's almost like you got to look out for your, when you said it's a complicated problem, I think one of the real complexities is that issue of freedom versus taking care of your fellow man who is obviously in need and cannot do it himself. And like, where is that borderline?
Right.
What's the song all about?
The new one.
The one that you were going to do for them. I just think it's a nice thing that not a lot of artists are giving back in that kind of way, and I just think it's really important that you're recognized for it, and then maybe it'll encourage other people.
Well, where I live, we have a huge homeless problem here, too, and we actually just had elections that were largely based upon that issue, and trying to elect somebody that has a vision on what, on helping out the situation. I live in a town that has like 100,000 people, and we have this gigantic homeless issue here. So anyway, I'm around it all day too. I see it everywhere I go, and so I wrote this song about addiction and the struggle with addiction, and describing a little bit about what it's like to somebody that doesn't have it, hopefully. And anyway, long story short, I'm donating that song to Mercy Watch, and all the proceeds from the sale of the song will go to help fund Mercy Watch. And it's a cool track. I'm very happy with it. It also, one thing kind of interesting about it is it actually has a couple of guys that are experiencing homelessness who were former musicians playing on the song.
Wow.
Too. Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool.
How did that happen? And what's the name of it?
The song is called "I've Seen the Way the Wind Blows," and I think it's going to be. I'm hoping that it does something to gather some momentum for the issue, so that maybe really smart people can come up with a conclusion on how to fix this, because it's not just my community or your community that's experiencing it. It's all over the country.
Oh, it's absolutely massive. How did you make the musician choices, Geoff, that you ended up with these cats on there?
Well, one of the gentlemen who is very integral to Mercy Watch, Dennis Kelly, knew these two gentlemen, and he suggested that I contact them and see if we could make something work with the song. Because I'd expressed to Dennis that I wanted to try to find some musicians, to contribute to it too. So I met them through Dennis.
What a cool thing!
But I'm gonna be coming out with a more official statement about it all in the next few weeks, so it'll explain it all a little better than I'm doing now.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's that makes the song even more. That's heavy. And what's the name of it again, Geoff? One more time.
I've Seen the Way the Wind Blows.
And it's really powerful, lending some of your context, I guess, from your own personal experiences with your mom. And man, it's a lot of that dictates my life too. My mom had MS and was near quadriplegic, and it's really, after she passed, I've tried to do whatever I can to advocate, give voice and visibility to organizations that help people with disabilities and who are vulnerable. So I'm impressed that you were able to tap your own personal experience like that. And similarly, I know in the past your daughters have sung on a few recordings you've done. And when I think about the new reality, and a lot of talented cats on there, there's no question you always surround yourself with them. But I think it's somewhat endearing. You've also brought the family in previously. Were they involved at all on the new one?
Just my daughter Emily has a bit of a singing part on one of the songs. She has got this incredible new band that I'm so impressed with. And I didn't even know that she was making a record until she tossed it in my lap and said, "Hey, you want to hear my new record?" You know, you get so locked into the stuff you're doing, you don't notice what's going around, and there she is with a fantastic record. I put on the record, and I couldn't believe how good it was.
What's the name of the band?
The band is called Till Death Do Us Part, and it's really all her. Emily is just a unique artist, I have to say, and she's really her own person, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful, very dark but pop kind of heavy record. I'd highly recommend it for people.
It's really cool how they've and was Amanda? What's the other daughter's name? Or
Miranda.
Miranda. I'm sorry, I knew it was a nice name. What's she up to?
Miranda is having children right now, and she's given us 2 beautiful grandsons, and that is amazing.
I know. I've seen the pictures of you with them. It's really a shock as a fan to see you be like, "This is my grandchild."
I know. It's a shock for me. I'm still not really that comfortable with the term grandpa.
I bet. Although you're getting that beard going, which kind of helps like reposition you.
Yeah, that's my new grandpa image.
I like it though. It works. It's still contemporary. You know what it fits? It fits the sax playing. How much of that are you? I mean, I heard the sax on "It Was Always You." I heard a little bit on "The Fear" on the new record. Again, it's Geoff Tate, former voice at Queensryche, New Reality we're talking about. How much are you playing that thing around your house or on a daily basis?
Oh gosh. I have a few of them, and I keep them stashed in different parts of the house. So when I need one, I can grab it,
So you don't play it every day. You play it once a week, or how often do you?
I probably play it once every couple days.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
So it does. Yeah.
It depends on my schedule.
I love the sound of it, though. You always hit the most moody lines when you use the thing. You use it like I like it, really accented, lots of reverb. It always has this kind of like. It always, what it reminds me of that you were like that Stones jam, Can't You Hear Me Knocking? There was like something about the way you used it on "It Was Always You" that reminded me of the way that the sax just has that kind of trippy quality.
That's interesting. I can see that now that you bring it up, because I'm a huge Stones fan.
Right.
And I probably stole that line from them. Or inspired by.
Exactly. I mean, how could you not be? And you've been inspired. One of the things I was thinking of, something I never asked you before, and you've had this huge Prague connection your whole life. You've established yourself on your own. You've done this really remarkable trilogy of records here, which you've just wrapped up. When you look at your whole life, especially as Grandpa Tate at this point, when you think back to the heaviest cats that were your heroes, that you got to have your own encounters with, that you still kind of look at that and go, damn, I still can't believe there I was talking to or having a drink with or learning about how they made the blank record. Who were some of those cats, that the guys that shaped you, that you then ended up getting to really have a remarkable time talking to?
Oh gosh, I've had quite a few conversations with what I would consider, outrageously talented musicians. Alex Lifeson from Rush, what a great example of this unassuming kind of person who really, in my opinion, looks at life sort of lighthearted, but can just play the heck out of a guitar and knows so much about music that but he doesn't take everything so seriously, and that's one thing I really love about him, is he's just a very light spirit, but man, his body of work is it's staggering.
He's a monster.
Yeah, David Gilmour, same way, a lot more serious of a person, I think, but what an interesting guy he was.
When did you meet him? When did you meet Dave?
I met him on Momentary Lapse of Reason tour, London, whenever that was. God, I can't remember the year now.
That
a long
was
time ago.
Momentary Lapse would have been 87.
87. Okay, yeah. It was at the end of the tour. Yeah, it was. No, it wasn't that. It was Division Bell.
94.
That's when it was.
And you got to hang.
Years mixed up.
No, it's easy.
I got to hang out with him a little bit, and he was very cordial. Very cordial.
That's cool.
I've had quite a few conversations with different people. People that are songwriters, and just hearing their take on how they feel about songwriting, what they try to do, and their philosophies. We all varied so differently. Musicians all have different ideas about how things should be or they want them to be when it comes to songwriting, and I find that diversity to be incredible.
Yeah, that's why I like pointing it out, just to see if there's any unusual people, incongruous, that people would be like surprised that, like, wow, I can't imagine Geoff Tate hanging with so-and-so kind of thing, because I know that you have that kind of diversity. Because as an example, I just had Dweezil Zappa on yesterday, and man, he was just telling some, just incredible stuff. You can imagine the people who'd come over to Frank's house. It's like... Yeah.
Well, I like to imagine.
Right? Can you just, like Eddie Van Halen, Ozzy, I mean, he's just got stories. Like, it's just an interesting perspective. That's all.
Yeah.
As we go to wrap it up, just I want to put an idea in your head. I know that unless you snuck here without me knowing, you've never come to Hawaii yet. Is that true?
I haven't. I have not been to Hawaii yet. It's the only state that I have never played live in.
All right, so put this in your head. All right, we've got the most homeless people on the streets per capita in the country. We're number one. And I'm thinking, you come out, I'll work with your agent, I'll set it up with a promoter guy out here who likes to do stuff. You do an intimate show, you do an acoustic thing, you could be a benefit for the homeless. You could do a benefit for, I imagine you love animals, rhinos, elephants, they both need our help. You could do something for them, right? There's trying to touch the buttons in your heart there. We have our own little 75-seat performance studio, or you could do it at a bigger place, but you get a little vacation while you're doing it, and you could, do some good. I really would love to, that's a way to entice you. I'm trying to hit your heart, right?
Oh, Dave, I really want to do it. I really want to get there. And I think this might be, or 2018 will really be the year, because I'm dedicating myself to touring everywhere in 2018, everywhere that I can possibly get to.
We got to do it. We've got to. And are you a public radio supporter? Do you listen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
I'm an NPR junkie.
We love that kind of talk.
Aloha, it's Geoff Tate. You might remember me from my time with Queensryche and Operation Mindcrime, and now you can count me as a fan of this guy, my buddy Dave Lawrence, and a fan of Hawaii Public Radio. Please make a pledge and become a member today. Here's how, and thanks for giving HPR a helping hand.
You're an animal. I will. I appreciate it. You have fun. I always enjoy talking to you, dude. And I
know. You too, Dave. Pleasure talking with you. You always have a real interesting perspective on things. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate yours. And it's Geoff Tate, and the new reality is the record. We're going to really work hard and getting him out here in 2018 to do something nice and help out folks, spread the word on your music, and just do some good in this lifetime. I'm giving you a big hug and a high five. Travel safe, and I look forward to seeing you here next time we talk, brother.
All right. Thanks again, Dave. Good talking with you.
You too, brother. Aloha.